So at the Institute of Sport, Exercise and Health, we bring together the best in class through a multiple variety of specialties.
It is a multidisciplinary clinic. I'm a sports physician, and right beside me I have an orthopedic surgeon. Just down the corridor I have a radiologist, and next door we have a physiotherapist, all working together, all seeing the same patients.
We see all sorts of sports here, from Olympic sports through to professional sportsmen, from professional rugby to professional football. One of the major sports that I work with is GB boxing. 3 boxers that we've been treating and preparing for the Commonwealth Games that are coming up soon. It's Warren Baster, Savannah Marshall and Nicola Adams. They've all had different injuries, but they've all been quite serious.
Basically in a bout I threw a shot and the hand buckled and tore the joints across the hand, and that needed to be fixed. I had to get bone took out of my wrist and the joints took out of the back and the bone put in and fused together where it was kept together with pins.
Savannah tore the plantar fascia in her foot. The plantar fascia is a thick sheet of fibrous tissue which helps maintain the arch of the foot. She was doing extremely well, she was rehabbing well, and unfortunately she was at home just pushing off for another run and she tore it again. Where's the aching you're getting now?
I get it here, Mike, right there.
That meant that she missed the European Championships, which was a blow not only to Savannah, but it was also a blow to the whole rehab team, because we were hoping that we'd get her back on time. I think that's just where it's overworking to try and keep that arch up, because you've lost a little bit of shape of the arch because the plantar fascia's torn. And now she's boxing at a really high level, and I'm sure she's going to win a gold medal at the Commonwealth Games. I've had a look at Adams.
How's she doing?
She's doing well.
You're doing good, are you? Yeah, she's fine.
I don't really see any need to reduce back the sparring as far as it was suggested at the meeting.
Okay, yeah, good, brilliant.
Because we've obviously got limited time before the Commonwealths.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
The good thing is, and I'd looked at her shoulder this morning, or this afternoon, and it looks pretty good. I mean, it's not 100%, it's a bit stiff, but we can manage it. I would predict that confidently that we are going to get golds at the Commonwealth Games and golds in Rio, no doubt.
I see a whole gamut of people, all the way from Olympians on a regular basis through to athletes who are 70 or 80 trying to keep active, trying to walk on the hills, and youngsters as well who are coming into sport and getting a little bit injured. So right across the board, and in fact sometimes working with the older, should know better clients are actually more rewarding.
We're very keen that it's extremely successful, not just in improving the treatments for elite athletes, but also bringing this through to improving the treatment for the NHS patients who can come in and get the same treatment as an elite athlete at this place.
Sport and exercise medicine has filtered down into various aspects of medicine. As an example, we'll often work with patients who, for example, may be very deconditioned, they've just been through cancer treatment, they may even be in the middle of cancer treatment, or there may be people who are getting back from a serious illness.
So here's the right leg, and you can push. So on that one, you can see that you're struggling a little bit. It's harder for you. Okay, and then come back down again.
So I was 16 when I was diagnosed.
So Vicky's had an osteosarcoma, and the tumours are quite large. They're normally in bone.
And I went from being completely fit doing sport to a relatively high level 5-6 times a week, very physically fit, to not being able to walk in 8 weeks. Subsequently, I had 10 weeks of chemotherapy, then an operation to replace most of my femur with metal, and therefore remove the tumour, and then 20 weeks of chemotherapy afterwards. I think with hindsight I was very naive actually at the severity of what was going on, but actually I don't think that was a bad thing at the time. Like, I never once thought I was going to die, which, you know, with hindsight and particularly being in medicine, that's really quite naive, but I wouldn't say it's a bad thing at the time.
On Vicky's X-ray you can see that the whole of the distal femur has been replaced as part of the joint replacement. The alternative to that is amputating leg. So Vicky's done remarkably in that she has had 2 revisions of the surgery.
I was lucky enough to have a multidisciplinary team meeting when I first came here, and I sat in a room that was quite daunting of 12, 15 top consultants in all of their fields, medicine, surgery, physiotherapy, sport and health. They were all there just to kind of piece together their expertise and try and work out what was going to be best for me, and that kind of therapy and support I didn't expect to get. So my real goal is to run. I would really like to run again.
I'm Professor of Orthopedic and Sports Surgery at University College London Hospitals, so I do a large volume of complex reconstructive surgery around the knee, around the hip. You've clearly been incredibly active on this hip and you've worn out your polyethylene, and as a result of wearing out the plastic, you can see how the head is now lying asymmetrically within that socket. Key facts to note in his hip is that the head of the femur is now sitting very eccentrically within the socket, which means there's been a great deal of wear. And as a result of that wear of the plastic, we've lost some bone here, we've lost some bone down there, and it looks as if the socket is almost certainly loose with some bone loss behind it. So essentially what you're seeing now is the back of the hip joint. You can see a metal hip in a plastic lining, and what you can see is that the plastic is damaged all the way down here. There are interventions that we see more and more of now where other things have been tried, where previous operations have failed, and so we get people who've had 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 previous operations to deal with a knee or a hip problem, and then we have to start all over again and put that back together and get that patient back out doing what they need to do. We have a number of key research themes and internationally renowned researchers working in those areas. It's really cutting-edge translational research working all the way through from basic science to clinical delivery.
The clinical researchers in my group all have a link to critical care. And in critical care, where we look after the sickest patients, they're all suffering from low levels of oxygen in some way. Now, the way that we explore that in healthy humans is to take people to high altitude, either in a chamber, doing it in here in this very building, or more commonly taking large numbers to altitude, where we've exposed about 500 people to levels of oxygen that would be the same or more severe than that experienced by our critically ill patients.
So this test essentially is exactly the same kit almost, so a slightly modified version of the bike and a smaller version of the cardiopulmonary exercise testing kit. The metabolic cart was taken up to Everest Base Camp, and we measured about 400, 500 exercise tests on different individuals to see how they tolerate the hypoxic conditions.
Now, why, one might ask? Well, what we're looking for are biomarkers, indicators of whether a patient is tolerating or suffering from low levels of oxygen. If you're tolerating low levels of oxygen, and we could determine that, then we'd modify your care and be less invasive. If you were suffering from low levels of oxygen, then we'd be able to wade in with our treatments that are readily available and accelerate our treatment and produce a better outcome.
The beauty here is that we have the expertise and the right personnel so that we will in any one day see professional rugby players, professional footballers, athletics, the Royal Ballet.
So all we're trying to do is get them back to where they want to be.
We're the cul-de-sac where people come when they think that there is the end of the road, and I say no, we're going to turn you around and get you back out and heading in the opposite direction out to success again.
It's a centre of excellence. Like, you have centres of excellence for everything else, therefore why shouldn't you have it for exercise and sport? And I honestly didn't think that you'd be able to get it on the NHS.